What's going on, guys? Jared here. This is the Run with Tobe podcast. I'm sitting here with Andrew in a new setup, new studio. This looks pretty cool, but this is episode 21. Let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, Andrew, what's going on?
Not much, man. Or should I call you the Hebrew warrior?
Oh, so you listen to that for everybody out there.
Shout out to Chillin' with the Jays podcast, because I just heard Jared on a guest podcast, but you can go ahead and explain.
Yeah, everybody who doesn't know what that means, check out Chillin' with the Jays podcast. It's a podcast by a couple buddies of ours. It's hilarious. And for some reason, they nicknamed me the Hebrew Warrior.
Which is fucking awesome, by the way. I love it.
It's actually it's probably the best. I wish I thought of that back in the DJ days, because I definitely would have named myself the DJ Hebrew
awesome.
Warrior.
Yeah. You should have definitely named yourself that.
It's definitely way cooler than anything I ever came up with. But yeah, man, like I said before, we are kind of sitting here in this new setup.
Yep.
Got some extra hands on set today, which is awesome. Rolling a couple new cameras. Actually 4 cameras on this one, because we're doing a test, since there's some new stuff in the social media news.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I want to go ahead and just lead off with and talk about kind of like what's been grabbing our attention. So why don't you go first?
Yeah, I guess before I even get into it, we actually want to give a shout out to 2 new folks we hired this week. We got Oz, who's off in the corner over there.
Behind the camera.
Help us on the creative side. So shout out to Oz. And,
Link.
Ding! And we also got Forrest on board this week, helping us on the content and marketing side. So
Link. Ding!
Yeah, so we'll, shout out to you guys. Our team is growing over here. It's exciting to come into the office and see new faces and have new things to talk about and teach. And I'm actually even more excited about the time that it's going to free up for myself. So selfishly, that's another reason why I'm kind of happy we got some folks on board.
You're just happy to talk to somebody besides me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of a drag being in the office all day with Jared. But anyways, so back to the original question, which is what has been catching my attention. So I actually came across this article in a publication called Marketing Land. I've actually never seen this publication before, but they're pretty awesome when it comes to digital marketing stuff. So the headline on this is digital video ad spend keeps rising with social media, for example, Facebook, set to see the most growth. And actually the subhead is actually what caught my attention the most, which was the latest video advertising study finds that 2/3 of advertisers will shift budgets from TV to digital.
Wow.
So that's a big deal. And so when you're talking about shifting advertising budgets from a established format like TV into these OTT networks that we keep talking about, it's now, the data is now showing that, that the money is actually going into these spaces. And a couple of interesting highlights from it. Number one was that over half of the buyers are planning to increase mobile and digital video ad spend in the next 12 months. And actually, there's a chart here that we'll put in the show notes. But the most interesting thing was that, mobile is getting probably the lion's share of the increase, because of the smartphone that everyone has, obviously. And then also desktop and online video is also getting the lion's share of the ad spend as well. So I think, and again, I need to figure out where things like Apple TV or any of those conduits.
Roku.
Roku.
Fire.
Is that considered desktop/online video?
I would think
considered mobile.
I would think it would sit in the online video, because it's just a streaming device. I don't think they would consider it mobile, because you can't take it with you.
I would think so. There's also another category here called advanced TV.
Oh, and maybe it's in that.
It could be in that. Yeah. But needless to say, like a lot of what we talked about, over the past few months here has been about digital video and sort of, when you start looking at the big players and where they're starting to divert their money to, that's probably a good sign for some of the, even if you don't have $1 million a month or whatever ad budgets, it's probably a good leading indicator when some of the larger guys are going out to some of these other channels. So we'll link this article in the show notes. I think this was actually there's a lot of data inside this post from Marketing Land. So something to check out if you're considering making an investment in video.
You know what, man? It just happened again.
Yeah.
Every time.
But I think that actually links nicely into the thing you're going to talk about catching your attention, which is, I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, so I had this thing that was catching my attention, and it kind of always has, and we can touch on that in another podcast, but basically the importance of having a strong personal brand to help create more awareness and more followings and hopefully more business for your business. And it's definitely something I think we should dive into. But that got pushed to the side because yesterday Instagram decided to launch a out of the blue platform called IGTV. And basically they decided to go to the whiteboard and say, what do you get when you give everybody the ability to have their own TV channel on a network that has 1 billion monthly active users? You get IGTV. Ding! So basically what it is long-form vertical video. So no longer the 15-second video, which they do in their stories. No longer. And of course, they still have that. It's a step up above that. And of course, it's a step up above the 1-minute clips that you get in your normal Instagram feed. And it says they're limiting it from 15 seconds to 60 minutes. But it looks like they're kind of gating that upper echelon of the really, really high-end influencer content where they're allowing those people to kind of have longer than like 10 or 15 minutes to test.
So why do you think they are constricting the format to, it's almost like stories cropped like vertical, right? Or is it?
Well, stories is vertical, right?
Right, but it's super cropped in.
Kind of. Well, it's super cropped in just because you're taking the normal 16:9 ratio and flipping it 90 degrees, and now it's 9:16 is the ratio.
Well, the reason I ask this is because this creates all sorts of issues if you're creating one piece of content that's supposed to go on YouTube, for example. There's no way, or maybe there is a way. You tell me.
I think what they're doing. Okay, so let's get in a couple things. So first, I think one, they are going after YouTube, but they're going after a different demographic of YouTube. Long form video on YouTube, cinematic style video, vlogging style video is always going to live on YouTube, and it kind of has. It's made its bread and butter there. But with this platform, they are kind of going after some of that vlogging content at the same time as attacking Snapchat by going after their vlogging content and their vertical video invention, if you will. They kind of like pioneered the vertical video. Instagram now is allowing you as a creator, anybody as a creator, everybody on the platform, the ability to use this longer form content where Snapchat gates it. Snapchat has the ability to have these things. And if you know the Snapchat app, you swipe right, you can go into these like curated channels. And that's basically what this is. But instead of gating it to only the top tier users or paid users like ESPN or Disney or these other paid advertisers that want to use the platform, they're allowing everybody to use this content, which is brilliant because one, it's not limiting because there's tons of creative people out there that don't have the following, they don't have the audience yet, maybe they don't have the budget yet to buy those higher end Snapchat channels. It gives them the ability to utilize the platform at somewhat. I do think where the gating part is coming in on Instagram's behalf is that's where they're gating the amount of content that you can put up. So going back to, it says there's a max of 60 minutes that you can upload, but not everybody gets the ability to upload 60 minutes. Currently on our channel, Tobe Agency, Run with Tobe IGTV channel, we're allowed 10 minutes per clip. So I did a test this morning. I uploaded our last podcast up there, and you can check that out now on IGTV. But it's in 3 separate clips. So it's part 1, part 2, part 3. I took our 30-minute podcast and just chopped it up into 3 parts. So I think that they're playing with a few things here. And the vertical video thing is not going away anytime soon. One, because that's just the natural device. That's nature of the device. They're always going to, the phones will get wider, things like the iPhone 7 Plus and things like that. It's a wider phone, but it's ultimately still a very long vertical phone. But it does create challenges like you're talking about creatively, which is you no longer can have these super wide angle shots where you're showing, really, really far either environments or landscapes, or even like right now we're sitting in between each other. That could be a challenge for the format.
So let me ask you. So I've got I have a personal blog where I talk about things like self-improvement and all this other stuff. And something I've been thinking about was to actually stop like doing written blogs and just start, because number one, like I just realized it's easier for me to just speak out the ideas as opposed to write them, or maybe I speak them out first and then write them later. But something I was thinking about literally the week before this damn thing launched was I'm going to go shoot some video content or vlog style content that I was just going to put on YouTube and then embed the video on my own personal blog and then add some text to that blog post, maybe summarizing a couple of things or put some bullet points or whatever. But for me now, for someone who does not want to edit video, who does not want to turn this into a huge production, right? What do you think? Where do you think I should take development of this video content?
So YouTube is still the number 2 search engine in the world, and that's not going away anytime soon. Eventually it'll probably get challenged, but this is just another attempt to kind of take a piece of that YouTube pie. I would say if you're trying to start a vlog in 2018, I would say to always start, and this just goes in social media anyway, go where your audience is. If you have 400 or 4,000 people on Instagram, why wouldn't you start there? Because you can already have instant eyeballs on it.
Can you download, like, so on stories you can actually save or download the video or the story that you're doing? Can you do the same thing with IGTV?
I don't know if you can download it once it's up, but what IGTV is doing that Snapchat isn't doing, and this is where I think they're really going to
do it from the camera roll.
You can go from the camera roll. You can go from the desktop. That's huge.
Oh, so there's a web app.
It's inside of the Instagram website. There's a spot called IGTV that you can upload from there. You can add your description, hashtags, all that. You can edit it from there if you'd like. You can't edit the video once it's up, but you can edit the metadata behind it.
Got it.
That's where I think they're going to take the advantage even further over Snapchat than they have already.
Yeah.
So that's number 1. Number 2, it does give you the ability, and going back to what you were saying, as somebody who doesn't want to edit or curate, so you do have the ability to just go straight from the phone, which you can on YouTube for an extent, but holding the phone like this versus holding the phone like sideways, is just a little bit more natural. So I do think it's going to be a very popular vlogging platform. IGTV, yeah, and I think it's still going to be. It's going to be a while before curators really and creators get really creative with the platform. Like, it took a long time for YouTube to kind of get to scale and also to maturity, right?
Yep.
So I think, this is down that path.
Well, if it's like anything that we've seen with anything Instagram, it's going to be hockey stick growth for this platform.
But I mean, the biggest number again is the 1 billion monthly active users across all of Instagram. So they're clearly betting on this platform. I don't know. I think it's going to be great. We're going to use it for us. It's just another outlet for the podcast and other media. I don't know exactly what our channel is going to look like eventually, because there is some interesting things that have happened since I uploaded the first couple clips that I noticed were kind of interesting. But another thing that you do have the ability to do is search the entire Instagram platform, find these TV channels. You can go to a profile and search for videos. You can watch everything back on demand. So it's just like YouTube's search if you want to find a video.
Right. Got it.
So, but that has been the thing that's kind of been catching my attention for the last 24 hours. I've kind of been obsessing about it, how, just thinking about how we can use it, how our clients can use it in the future.
Yep.
It's just another another puzzle piece in the marketing world, or another tool. But yeah, cool. Well, we will link this all up in the show notes, guys. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and check us out on all social media at Run with Toby. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. We are on Amazon Alexa and everywhere else you can find a podcast. But let's go ahead and jump into the main topic. And this kind of fits really nicely in with everything we already kind of discussed here. And that's something that you'd been kind of chomping at the bit to talk about. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce the topic.
Yeah. So we, this week, we're actually working on a few video projects, and part of what our agency does is we have a creative side to our agency, which, you obviously handle. And, it just got me thinking as, I've been speaking to we've actually been on a few pitches over the past couple of weeks. And, every time we undergo like a website development project, or we talk about a content strategy, or we talk about creating brand awareness or services, a lot of times we always kind of revert back to web copy.
Sure.
Right? So like, what's the web copy we're going to put on the website? What are the sales sheets going to look like? What are the brochures going to look like? What's the copy on the landing page supposed to say? It all goes back to text, right? And every single time I meet with someone, I always say, is there a better way to tell your story using video? And a lot of folks sort of like, they're like, oh, we know video is important. We watch a lot of video on our phones. I like video better than reading. But when it comes to their business, they don't think about putting video on their site or making
whatever reason. It's crazy.
Making the investment. I don't get it. But and maybe some people think like, hey, a company video costs $20,000 to make, which it can,
sure,
but it can also be
$2,000.
simplified in $2,000. Do you know what I mean? And so, the topic that I actually wanted for us to kind of center ourselves around today was about like what videos do you need to create for your company or for your brand, right? And so I kind of thought through, and we talked about this too, which was what are a few different types of videos or types of formats that every business, whether you're selling a product or a service, what are the videos that you should absolutely invest in or think about investing in as part of your overall content strategy?
The anchor pillar videos of the company.
Yeah, sure. Stuff that that will always be used, whether it's from a marketing or a sales standpoint, for that matter,
or brand awareness,
or brand awareness, whatever you want to call it, right? But what are some of those videos? So I guess why don't you name off one or two of them that you think that every company needs to have?
Yeah. So I think to start off at the top level, everybody needs some sort of about us video and about us, quote unquote. And that's just exactly what it is. It tells the story of your brand. Maybe how you started, maybe the history. If you didn't start it, if you're taking it on, if it's a legacy brand. And it just gives people who have no idea what you do, who you are, an idea of who you are and what you do. And it gives them like just a little bit of a taste, enough to understand what's going on behind there, but maybe not the inner workings of, maybe you make a product. Maybe it's not the inner workings of a specific product. Maybe you provide a service, but it's not that detailed. It's just an overlook of it. So I would say the About Us video is probably, if you're going to go bare minimum, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah, and I think that video is so important because whenever you go to someone's About Us page, like, you just get this like, oh, our culture is like this, our culture is like that, and this is what we do, and we founded this company, whatever. It's just kind of that boilerplate sort of language, and it actually all blends together.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
And on text, it's really hard to separate yourself.
Yeah, so usually some of these videos, like the founders in the video, or the CEO of the company, or a key person, and all those things are or having those people in those videos humanizes the company.
Right.
So you no longer just become another URL online.
Exactly.
They end up putting a face to a name.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, like, even when I do our own sales calls, like, I try as much as I can to get them on like a Zoom video conference because I want them to see me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I want them to put the name to a face.
Right.
So I'm not just hiding behind an email address.
That's a big reason that we push to do video for the podcast.
Sure.
So people could see who we are,
Yep. So I think I agree with you. I think this branded About Us video, or like kind of who we are sort of video, is a super important video, or a really important asset that, everyone should think about creating. And maybe we can talk a little bit about like what does it take to create a video like that. Some people, you might go to an agency, you might think about trying to do it yourself, but maybe if the video, like, how would you build a video like that on the cheap end
Yep.
versus doing a video like that where you actually have a little bit of budget?
So budget, no budget aside, it starts with the story. It always starts with the story. That's true and true through filmmaking in general. No matter if you're doing a vlog, if you're doing an about us video, or if you're doing a feature film, you got to have a great story. And you may have a good story, or you may think your story's boring, but it's a personal story. If you make that story really about the human aspect of your business, that's what people are going to connect with. They're going to connect to, maybe why your grandfather started the business back when, or, maybe why you're, the things that you're doing here now to cement a legacy for, your kids or somebody else's kids in the future. So that story is really, really important. It's kind of like the heartbeat of everything. Once you have the story, it's kind of there. It becomes like a tasteful thing. How much production do you want? Do you want, an influencer in the video or somebody else famous? Do you want to spend a lot of money for an expensive location? So that's when the budget can kind of get inflated. But to be honest, Dollar Shave Club, which you put down here in the notes, is a great example. I think there was that budget was like $5,000 to $10,000. They did it in their warehouse. It was the CEO and a couple coworkers that were working there at the time. They shot the video with some friends, did it for really low budget, didn't spend a ton of money on post-production or, music licensing or all that other stuff that can get kind of in the weeds and kind of distract you. And they kept it really straight and simple, and they got to the point with the story. And obviously, some brilliant script writing and copywriting.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to also mention about Dollar Shave, so this was, we'll put this in the show notes, but this was my favorite example of an about us or a branded company video. One thing you also got to realize too is that you're going to create this awesome asset, but there's also a whole other part to it, which is distributing that asset and getting eyeballs on it. The CEO of Dollar Shave Club actually spent a lot of time behind the scenes as well, making sure that when that video came out, it got as much reach as possible.
Yeah, viral doesn't go viral on accident.
Yeah, there's a strategy behind it. So we'll save this topic for another podcast, which is all about content distribution. Because if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it. Did it fall? There's no tree. That's what I believe. No.
Leave a comment below if you think
there's no tree. It's not even that it fall or not. It did not fall. It didn't fall because
I want to hear the
conspiracy
theories. Leave a comment below.
Don't even open up that door, dude. The internet and conspiracy theories. But again, so the point is, branded about us company videos, super important. Focus on the story.
Yep.
Focus on what's the messaging.
Messaging is huge.
Who are you? Why do you do what you do?
Why would people think you're interesting?
What's your value proposition to the customer?
Yep.
And you'll be shocked. A lot of companies don't know what their value proposition is to the customer.
And that goes. That goes deeper than just looking at the about us story. We could talk about that on another podcast.
So another video that I thought was a pretty important one to have outside of just a branded company video were product videos, product or service explainer videos. Yep. And I think this is actually really important, not only for on the marketing side, but actually on the sales side, because, and this is especially important for companies that have relatively complicated products or services.
Yes.
Sometimes
usually like a B2B type service.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier just to say, hey, watch this minute and a half video to explain what our product or service does. Then you can spend more of your sales time talking through how that product or service will benefit that specific customer, as opposed to saying okay, A goes to B, B goes to C.
Well, I think another challenging part of that is getting your entire sales team. If you have multiple salespeople, how do you get them all to give the message the same way and deliver it the same way, right? That becomes a challenge.
Yep.
Exactly. Even if Joey's not feeling good today and he doesn't give the same energy he would, last Thursday, that could be a problem.
It standardizes the messaging, and it also standardizes, I was saying, maybe even the value proposition that's being delivered, right? So I think another important part of this is just like with the branded about us or company video is what's the story behind it? What's the messaging behind it? And I would say, you probably need to do a little bit of research on your persona to figure out how to position the messaging correctly.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just guessing in the dark. Right. So I think a big challenge with the overall, like, trying to get that message right is how it's what I'm trying to say here is, how do you end up getting that messaging right? And I think it requires a lot of research, like actually surveying and talking to people before you actually start trying to like drive that message or deliver that message.
Right. And the last one I think that you noted down here, because we got a couple of minutes left, is the team and founder employee videos.
Yep.
I personally think these are really important just because they show more of that human element. Again, who's behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people miss on that. And they, obviously a picture is great, but if you can have, and not everybody's cut out for video, we know that. So it may not be a great idea. This is definitely like a case by case study. But
that's true. Actually,
but if you can get on camera just to show a little bit of that human side of you, maybe you're funny. Maybe, you have a sense of humor that stands out, or the energy you bring.
Yep. No, I think the founder videos, they kind of, it's almost like, when you go to a website and you have like the leadership team and then like they'll have like a blurb or a paragraph about them. Instead of doing a paragraph, just say that paragraph. Hi, I'm Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of Tobe Agency. I've been in digital marketing for 10 plus years and, I like dogs and golf and all this other, just say it in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And instead of putting that like cheesy thumbnail.
If you can.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah. Instead of putting like that cheesy thumbnail that looks like your like high school like headshot or whatever, like put the video up there.
Yeah.
To give it a little bit more personality. So we actually provided an example from Starbucks here.
Cool.
Which is a pretty good example.
Drop that in the show notes.
Yeah, of how getting people in front of camera actually shows your company culture and your values.
Yep.
Which again, to me, speaks a lot more than someone just going on.
Think of Dave Thomas and Wendy's, man.
Yeah, right.
Things like that.
I actually was
Colonel
thinking
Sanders.
of what's that dude's name from the Men's Warehouse? Do you remember that guy?
Yeah,
that dude was like a fixture for like in the 90s.
Staple. Yeah,
right. Like he's like, what was his tagline? I guarantee.
You'll see a lot of that in local markets where they do
Totally.
like small car sales.
The
right?
reads,
But I'm not saying those are good, but you'll see a lot of examples.
But anyways, it's let's take that to another level, which is like, let's bring it up to like 2018 standards, which is make it a little bit more authentic. Like a little bit, maybe a little bit less produced.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
And get it up there on your company website as a cool piece of content. So,
I totally agree.
We're revamping a lot of our own content to follow this right now. It's just finding the time to actually go and shoot it, which is certainly another challenge.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and just kind of wrap things up. I mean, when you think about producing this content, there's a bunch of things that you've got to think about, right?
Yep.
So it's
totally
like, what are some examples of that?
Well, number one is always budget.
Yep.
Talent. Not everybody's great on camera. Sometimes it pays off to hire some professional talent. And going back to the story, I mean, talent, location, budget, all those things are great. But if that story and your messaging is not right, it doesn't really matter to go past that step.
Yeah. So like, I guess the main thing is, if you're going to consider doing a video like this, just be honest with yourself and your budget and what you're willing to spend. Right. If you are willing to spend about $2,500, you could probably get a professional or semi-professional, right, to help you out with it, right?
Yep.
But if your budget is like under $1,000, $500, you might have to do some stuff on your own.
You might want to be doing that on your iPhone.
Yeah, you probably want to do it on your iPhone. You might need to get an editor.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? To clean it up a little bit for you, and you might have to do some of the production.
I would
on
say
your own.
Make sure that the sound is good.
Yep.
You could have the best camera in the world, but if it doesn't sound well,
usually
people are going to tune it out. So yeah, definitely do the time to do some research on some of these basic
and you may
things.
find that for what you're going to spend for $500, like maybe getting to that 2,500 range where you actually can get a professional to come in and help you do it all. You know, that might make more sense. And if you're spending 20,000 or more, come talk to us because we'll take care of you.
Right.
But frankly, like we do video projects. You know, from that sort of $2,500 range, you know, all the way up past there. So we've certainly found ways to make it work. Do you know what I mean? And still make it, and again, for the $2,500 projects, like it becomes even that much more important to nail the story.
Absolutely.
Because usually we're only in one location. We've only got like one camera. Right. You know, we only have one person.
One day to shoot it.
Exactly, one day to shoot it. So we have to get a little bit more creative with how to make it work there, but we can certainly make it work. And there's, you know, again, if you're thinking about doing this, you know, $2,500, you know, again, that's kind of what I think of as the entry point to do something like that.
Yeah.
But it's possible. Just, you know, don't expect a Dollar Shave Club style video because
for $2,500
they had a lot of in-house sort of talent.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing. If you have something to bring to the table, like they did, like the writing and things like that, obviously it can help with the budget. It'll help offset and stuff like that.
Cool. So yeah, just maybe an overview of if you've thought about creating branded video content for yourself. You know, maybe a couple of areas to start so that you can get the most shelf life. You know, the product /service videos, the about us videos, or the company founder videos. Like those ones have a evergreen. They're evergreen.
Yeah,
they can always be used.
Yeah. So when you are buying that, just don't think that it's like a one time. It's definitely not the Toyota commercial for 2018. You know, where it's only going to be used for 2018. So. They can be used for a lot longer.
The other thing I'd recommend too is if you're going to be shooting a lot more content than you're going to be getting out of the edit. Right. So we'll shoot hours of content for a minute and a half edit. Right. There's a lot of good B-roll footage that you may be able to leverage from that as well for social
great social media.
So what we do as a kind of a nice bonus for our clients is we go through the B-roll footage and we find ways to clean it up so that they have 10 or 15 different like micro pieces of content that they can use from social. So something else for you to consider out there if you want to get some more reach out of that pillar piece of content that you're developing.
Totally. So. That's a great point. And then obviously you touched on distribution. That would be another thing, which we'll get into in another podcast. But yeah, do some research on distribution because that's sometimes 75% of the battle, right? Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Well, we will link everything up in the show notes like we always do. Don't forget to rate, subscribe. Also, tell a friend about the Run with Tobe podcast. And if you have any questions, drop us a line. Ask at No, that's not it. It's ask at tobeagency.co. Yeah, too many Tobes going on. We'll see you guys on the next one.